I bought the Leica Q3 43 thinking I would sell my Q3 28. The 43 just sounded like a better option for me. But I'm not selling my Q3 28. My name is Christian Warwick. I'm a full-time filmmaker and photographer. I work with brands like Red Bull, Oakley, and BMW. I'm here to share my experiences and hopefully help you become a better filmmaker, photographer, and creative business owner. If you haven't already watched my review on the Q3, I recommend you watching that one before and then you return to this video after, unless you know everything there is to know about the Q3 already. I've had the original Q3 for a year, and I have loved my time with it. The issues I've had are not big enough for me to not love it. These are the pros I mentioned in my Q3 review. 60 megapixels, the build, the Leica look, the presets in the camera, great at low shutter, good low light ability. And then the cons? It might be hard to frame your shots with a fixed 28. I found a solution to this. I just learned how to do it. Okay, burst sequences are slow and it takes forever to read to the card sometimes. It also tends to freeze a lot. That might just be my camera, but it still does. And then lastly, awful autofocus. Now let's jump into why you're really here, the difference between this camera and the new Q3 43. And before I start analyzing the photos, let's get the spec differences straight. So, the old original Q3, 743 grams. This one, 794 grams. Otherwise same size, except for the lens of the Q3 being a little bit longer. The Q3 original has a 1.7 aperture, the new one 2.0 aperture. The Q3 has a Summilux 28, which means that the wide might be better on this, and then the Q3 43 has an APO Summicron 2.0, which according to some people means that it has nicer colors and nicer bokeh. I don't know enough about these specs, so I'm not gonna go very deep into it, but I assume that the reason why they have different types of lenses for these, other than the focal length, is just that they're trying to optimize the lens for the actual focal length of the camera. There's also a difference in the lens hood of the cameras. I'm not entirely sure why it is, but the 43 has more of a square on the inside of the lens hood. It has nothing to do with the fact that the 28 is too wide, because I tried to put the lens hood of this one onto this one and I couldn't see anything being in the way of the shot. And then obviously the price point, the Q3 $6,295, Q3 43 $6,895 at the time of this video being made. And that is obviously a big issue for most of us, because it's overpriced. Regardless of how good of a camera these, like both of these are really good cameras, but it's still overpriced. Anyways, Leica kind of disappointed me immediately. I'm sorry, but I expect that when I pay that much that I get a charger with my camera. Honestly, like regardless of what I'm paying, I expect a charger for the camera. And also the box it came in was less premium than the box that the Q3 original came in. And I just feel like they're going down on the delivery in addition to the camera. I guess they just assume that we love the camera so much that we'll just get it regardless. Luckily, I have a camera charger for my original Q3 and I could use the same charger, because obviously the same charger is being used for both of them, or same batteries. But still, seriously? This thing of beauty arrived on Friday, and I've used it just about every time I've left the house ever since. Portraits, walks with my dog, I went to a hockey game with it, I'd taken pictures of my girlfriend during dinners, and I did a proper test shoot with my friend Bendik the other day. I was not really surprised when I saw the results, but I have to say that even though I kind of knew what to expect, that it was great after a year with the original Q3, I know what to expect from the Leica, I still found myself to be really impressed. I just love the look, and I guess I have always been a sucker for a tighter focal length. Is that even a term? Tighter focal length? Anyways, I found these shots at the hockey game to be crazy, as I was sitting high up in the stand, far away, and I was still able to get a shot like this when I cropped in. It went from this to this. And when we had workers over here the other day, I tried to take some photos in bright sunlight, and I honestly don't know if I've had colors like this coming out of a camera ever. I'll get back to the colors. Let's have a look at the pictures from the Q3 28 and the Q3 43 side by side. Let's first look at a portrait I did of myself on the first day of getting the camera. Distance between me and the camera is around 70 centimeters, 27.5 inches, and that's the same for both cameras. My first impression was that I loved the look. A lot of depth, and I like the shape of my face. It seems proportional, sharp, and the depth is really good at f2. I also love the colors that I get. The skin color, the color of the hat, the color of the background, just looks good. And as I said, I did not change the distance between the cameras, but the Q3 28 is definitely not bad for this either. Colors are the same, we still have a lot of depth, and my face is without distortion. I would say I like the proportions better with the 43 if I had to choose. There's a bit more depth at the same f-stop, and for a portrait it's probably better with the 43. But again, with a crop on the 28 it looks like this. So it's not that big of a difference. Sorry to interrupt, but please consider subscribing to my channel if you like my content. I would really appreciate that. I have not cropped any of these photos, so the compositions might not be great, but I think that it's important for you to be able to see the full picture and for you to see the whole, or the big difference, full difference between these two cameras. Now to this photo of Oakley. This shot reminds me a lot of a 50mm shot with the depth that it has. I love how only his face is in focus and the bokeh of the background. Honestly, this shot by itself is enough for me to want to keep this camera. And look at these circle shaped things in the background. The whole thing is very just pleasing to look at. But then I also love this shot. It shows that Oakley is in a big dog park and it tells more of a story. In short, less bokeh but still enough for it to look nice. The foreground bokeh is also lovely. So I can't really make up my mind here. Now let's have a look at this photo of Bendik. What camera do you think this is taken with? It's with a 28mm. I am fairly close to Bendik, just under a meter or around 3 feet. It's a nice photo with a lot of depth, nice colors and a warm look. I'm not sure I would have reacted badly to this photo if I saw it by itself. It's not perfect, but also not bad. But then as soon as I compare it with a 43mm, this changes. Bendik's face is suddenly, it has a nicer and more natural shape. And although I can easily crop in on this and get a nice photo, I still think the 43 looks better like this. So what if I keep more distance from Bendik? What happens? Except for the obvious, that we get more bokeh at the same settings, we have two pictures that look just like each other when cropped in on the 28. The difference would obviously be more visible if I for some reason wanted to crop in even more, as the 43 would give us more freedom in that direction. In the same way we have more to play around with the other way with a 28mm. And one of them you can go back on, the other one you can't. We have talked a lot about the bokeh, so we know that that is good. Better with a 43 when you're so close, but that's also not a surprise. But look at Bendik's face here. I think this is one of the most obvious examples for the shape of his face. His face just has more shape with a 43. With a 28, it's less detailed and more round shaped. Same when we look at this photo. And I even have quite the distance to Bendik here. But then we have this shot of me and my best friend. I love how we look like we are in the woods all by ourselves. And again, we have more of a story to it. There's more forest around us. For this kind of shot, I prefer this over the 43. Both are nice, but without distortion, I like the 28 example better. Keep in mind that you can always move more with the 43 too, but the big advantage of the 28 is that it's so versatile and you can be close without getting too much distortion. You just get more options with the 28. Same goes for this creative shot Bendik did. I love the story the shots tells. Sometimes having more background is just better. And here Bendik is close to the ground and wouldn't actually be able to move much further back. he probably would not have been able to get the same kind of shot with the 43 as he did with the 28. That being said, the 43 certainly delivers here too. Let's look at some examples without me analyzing them. Here's one of Bendik from a distance. For this, I think the 43 works better. But if he was on a field like this couple that I photographed with my 28 this summer, I think the 28 would have been superior, just because you get more details about the things around. We keep coming back to the 28 maybe being a better storyteller. For these shots of Oakley and me, a lot could have been done with cropping. And for a shot like this, a 28 is more versatile. Let's look at this portrait. I probably don't even have to comment on it. It's kind of like a no-brainer. The 43 is much better here. Needless to say, we can conclude that this is a better portrait camera. No big surprise. This was probably the whole reason they made it in the first place. Super popular camera, let's make it into a portrait camera. Now, let's talk macro. The details and the macro function is just great. I love this, and that makes both cameras super versatile. One adjustment on the camera, on a lens, and you have a new lens. But what happens when we try to use it on Bendik? Not surprisingly, but the distortion is real on the 28. We have tendencies of that on the 43 too, but not even close to as much as on the 28. Both cameras do well with the macro, but we still get a different look when shooting grass or leaves. It's the same as before, and at this point I guess you shouldn't be too surprised at what I'm getting, where I'm going. More bokeh on a 43 and a tighter crop. I was going to compare the cameras using a flash, but then the flash got stuck on the Q3 43 and we were trying to get it out for half an hour. So we decided we didn't want to go through that again.
There's gonna be haters on YouTube telling us never do that.
And break one of these $6,000-$7,000 cameras. And yeah, here are the shots that we did with a flash attached to the 43. Now, let's try to sum it all up. But first, remember that you can easily sign up for free for a MusicBed subscription and get some benefits by hitting the link down below. First, colors. At first sight, the colors on both cameras seem to be the same. No big difference. But when I start studying it, it almost seems like the colors are softer in a way with the 43. I don't know if that is even true, but I also don't have a better way of describing it. There's just super small difference. When it comes to the depth, we do get more of a bokeh, but that shouldn't come as a surprise when you make the jump from 28mm to 43. Although the difference from f2 to f1.7 might actually make up for it, I still find the background out of focus area to be softer with the 43. And then we get to the focal length / distortion. There will be some more distortion with the 28. The question is how often you take a portrait that close. I am not sure if I really think it matters. If I could choose, I would go for the 43 for portraits and close-ups. But the difference is not huge enough if you think about what you get with the 28. If you are lucky enough to own both of them, I would definitely choose the 43 for those kind of pictures. But that's also a $14,000 investment if you have both of them. Okay, let's talk about the sharpness and quality. There's no difference. Both are stellar. Just incredible. And then when it comes to the Q3 28 issues that I was addressing in the first video and the beginning of this video, the Q3 43 doesn't really seem to freeze like the 28 does. The autofocus is a little bit better, and it actually seemed to write faster in burst sequence mode. This could be because my 28 is one of a kind with its issues, but I still think it's worth mentioning. I bought this Q3 43 thinking I would sell the 28. Although I love the 28, I simply thought the 43 would serve me better. I have changed my mind. If I had to keep one camera, I might actually have to go with the 28. Just because it gives me more opportunities. I can crop in so much and still have great quality photos. And what it gives me between 28 and 43 is just something the 43 can't give me. If a room is a certain size, I can always move closer, but I can never move further than the size of the room. And yes, the 43 is not a 200, I get that, but you probably still get my point. I think this has made me realize yet again why Leica chose the 28 for the Q3. It's such a perfect focal length for just about everything. With this quality and a 28, you are good for just about any shoot. And it's just the perfect storyteller. That's kind of my conclusion. The 28, is a better storyteller. It tells greater, better, more detailed stories. But I'm not getting rid of any of these boys. They will most likely be my go-to for all of my photography going forward, whether that is for traveling or professional work. I might not use these for sports photography, like not as my main camera, as I don't trust the autofocus enough, and I might want to have something like the 70-200. But for everything else, I am officially 100% Leica. I might even get myself a Leica for sports as well. Thank you so much for watching. And again, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one.